As you probably know, the RØDECaster Pro II has ditched the analog TRRS port of the original RØDECaster Pro, and with that the corresponding audio channel to connect mobile phones and record phone calls. Rode has originally aimed the secondary USB port to replace this exact functionality. However, if you are using an iPhone and want to record native iOS phone calls through this port, you're pretty much out of luck, as iOS does not support transferring native phone calls over USB, as even highlighted by Rode in the RØDECaster Pro II's user guide. It just doesn't work due to iOS limitations. Having said that, the good news for those who still have more trust in a wired connection and want to record their phone calls from an iPhone, with the cunning use of the submixes feature, you were again able to wire connect your phone to the RØDECaster Pro II and record any calls, including native iOS phone calls. All you need is a trusty iRig2 adapter, which is 33 euros here in the EU. It seems like it's $50 nowadays in the US. And here's how to set it up. To wire everything together properly, you'll need the iRig2 adapter, a simple audio patch cable, a 1/4 inch or 6.3mm TS audio cable to be more precise, a 1/4 inch stereo to dual mono splitter cable, so TRS to dual TS, a dual mono to single mono converter, and finally an original 3.5mm to lightning dongle from Apple. Do not bother with third-party options, they will likely not work. The original is $10, don't take your chances. Connect the iRig2 adapter's 3.5mm end to the iPhone using the dongle. Set the switch on the side of the iRig2 from through to effects. Plug one end of the 1/4 inch TS to TS patch cable into first the iRig2's amplifier output port, here. Not to the headphone output, but to the amplifier output. Check my original iRig2 video to see why. And the other end of it into a free combo jack on the RCP2. In my case, it'll be channel 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember that input, and while you are there, move the fader up to unity level. Take the TRS, the dual TS cable, which we will use to separate the headphone output stereo output signal into dual mono signals, route them together into a dual mono to single mono adapter. And then first plug it into a free headphone port on the RCP2. Let's take headphone 4 for simplicity. Now it might seem strange that you are first separating a stereo output into mono and then joining them together again. But the important detail here is that you are joining them together into a mono output. So converting a stereo output into a mono output. And this is important as the iRig2's 1/4 inch input, the one marked with the small guitar silhouette, is mono. So if you want to plug a stereo cable into it, or a simple TRS to TS cable, it would only take one side of the stereo signal, and then the caller would consequently hear you only in one ear. So to allow the caller to hear you in both ears, in case she uses a headset, you have to make this extra effort. And finally, plug it into the iRig2's input. Now we have the phone going into the RCP2 on channel 4, and the audio is sent back from the RCP through from headphone port 4 into the phone. Now turn up headphone 4's volume to about 1/3. Also, when you've plugged in the phone, make sure you set the input to be able to receive the phone's sound. So if you go to channel 4, then you will see that you have it on some of the microphones by default, and set it up to line in. And according to my experiences, you have to crank up the gain quite a bit to around like 22, 23. And this way RØDECaster Pro II's channel 4 is set up to receive line level input, which is coming out from the phone. At this point, let's just quickly test if the connection works. Let me start one of my YouTube videos. And as I move up the fader of channel 4, you can see that the sound is coming through on channel 4 as expected. To check if the sound works also in the other direction, let's try to record something on the iPhone's native voice recorder app with a nice microphone that is plugged into the RCP2. And there you go, now I'm speaking into the Louis 240 Pro that is plugged into the RØDECaster Pro II, and it goes beautifully through into the iPhone. To prove that it is the RCP2 that sends out the audio into the iPhone, let's turn up the headphone volume of the headphone port that is sending out the audio into the iPhone, which is headphone port 4. And now you can see that the waveform is getting bigger and bigger and bigger as I turn up the volume. And now if I turn it back, then it gets flatter and flatter. So that works too. The audio is sent back and forth between the iPhone and the RØDECaster Pro II. Now, if you would start a call right away, you would not have a great experience, as everything that comes into the RØDECaster Pro II will also be sent back into the iPhone. Except that you don't want to send back the channel 4 to the iPhone, as on channel 4 you actually have the phone's audio coming in. So if you would send the audio that's coming from the phone right back into the phone, you would create an endless audio loop, which would make the conversation impossible, as whatever the other side says will be sent right back to them with a little delay, which is disturbing. And then this double signal would go again back into the RØDECaster Pro II, and from there back into the phone, and then again back to the RØDECaster Pro II, and so on and so forth, you can imagine. And because all this happens in milliseconds, you would very quickly end up with a horrible and continuous beep sound that is getting louder and louder by every second. Don't do that. Therefore, you would want to utilize the amazing submixes feature and take out the slapbacking channel 4 from what's being sent back into the phone conversation from the RØDECaster Pro II. And the way you do it could not be more simple. Go to Menu, Outputs, Routing, select the output from which you are sending the audio back to the iPhone, that'll be headphone 4, and once you're there, you're presented with all the audio inputs that are sent out through headphone port 4. Find the input channel to which the iPhone's audio is routed into, that's mic channel 4, and tap the chain icon twice. First tap would delink the channel's volume in the submix from the main mix, but we're not interested in that right now. The second tap eliminates the input from what's being sent out from the headphone port 4. And this is exactly what we want. We don't want to send back the audio that's coming from the iPhone right back into the iPhone. This is what's called the mix minus setup, by the way, which means that what's being sent out is the entire mix minus the audio that's coming from where we want to send the mix out to. And now you can have a phone conversation that is undisturbed by any slapback echo audio, and you can record a call to separate channels. My voice will be on channel 1 and the caller's voice will be recorded on channel 4. And this is all going through a wired connection. Your iPhone is connected with the physical audio cables to the RØDECaster Pro II. If you like this solution, let me know with a like and consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. Oh, and one more thing. Since we have only stopped channel 4 from being sent out back into the iPhone, all the other input channels do get sent there. So you can happily use the SmartPads or any other input channel to spice up the conversation. Like if you have a co-host or someone dialing in from Zoom or Teams, they can talk to your guest on the iPhone as well. And best of all, if you are recording alone, you only occupy one mic channel and one headphone port. So if you have 3 phones and 3 IRIC2 adapters, and 6 patch cables and 3 stereo to mono converters and 3 dongles, you can set it up 3 times the same way, which means that alongside the natively present RemoteCast recording options on the RØDECaster Pro II, those would be the Bluetooth channel, the USB 1, the USB 1 chat, and the USB 2, for which all you can switch on mix minus in the output routing menu. You have now 3 more analog mix minus setups, so should you wish to do so, you can record as many as 7 RemoteCasts at the same time, 2 separate channels, while still having a mic and a headphone input free for yourself. And this is unrivaled in this price class. Good luck with your recording, and bye for now.